Please put your hands together for a dear friend of mine.
Finally doing a podcast with my buddy. Human trafficking is one of the biggest industry in the world. 150 million people get trafficked every year. Ended up in the street of Kosovo, only to be discovered by 2 American police officers. The police officers refused to take me to the Red Cross because they knew that the youngsters were missing. There is a young girl from Serbia with 2 American police officers. It's a good opportunity to take her away. When I screamed, I'm a Muslim, I'm a virgin, they stopped because they realized they have stumbled, so they said, across a huge cargo. They created this gang, I would say worse than mafia. We've sold you to the highest bidder. I was the only one that they kept safe. I'll make all of this go away. You'll only be mine. I just couldn't do it, Terry. These guys broke my jaw. They branded me. The boss was sitting in front with the driver, and I had 2 of these guys next to me with guns on my both sides. And I heard this cling. He left the gun and he left the keys. And I'm thinking, what do I do?
Welcome back to the Criminal Connection podcast, and this episode is proudly brought to you by Betovo. Before we get stuck into this week's episode, we're going to give a big shout out to our sponsors. Introducing a proper raw men's fashion brand that has untamed energy inspired by relentless warriors while remaining cheeky and rebellious. Simeon Saboteur is not just about style. This brand is a movement and a rebellion against the ordinary. This clothing is crafted for those that face life head on. Our new collection fuses classic design with modern edge. If you want to express your true warrior identity, strength and boldness, then join our tribe of real modern men. Explore our collection of casual wear, active gear and statement pieces that are as unique as you are. Our new collection is now live, and as a special treat for our Criminal Connection podcast crew, use this fantastic discount code BANANA5 on the checkout for an exclusive 5% discount off your first order. Visit www.simeonsaboteur.com. Check them out in the link below. I want to say a huge thanks to our sponsors, Fragrance du Bois. Now, for those of you that don't know about Fragrance du Bois, where have you been? They've got so many different fragrances for men, for women. All of the fragrances are unisex, so make sure you get involved and sample the delights of Fragrance du Bois. For all the Criminal Connection podcast crew, we've got a special discount for you, 10% off. All you need to do when you click on the link below and choose your luxury fragrance is to put in CCPOD10 for the 10% discount. So if you'd like to find out about any of our fabulous sponsors, make sure you check out the links in the description below. Welcome back to the Criminal Connection podcast. Today we've got a very special guest. Her name's Lurata Lyon, and she has got an amazing story. She's released a book called Unbroken, and basically she's here today to talk about being a victim of human trafficking and actually being trafficked. So please put your hands together for a dear friend of mine, Lurata Lyon.
I feel like I'm going on stage. Yeah, I always say wherever you stand, that's your stage, and this is our stage.
This is
today.
our stage, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Terry.
No, thank you for
I'm
coming.
really excited, honestly. I've been so excited. Finally doing a podcast with my buddy. Yay!
So this is actually quite funny because I've sort of bumped into you on various red carpet events, namely our film premieres, and we've always had a picture and had a laugh and had a chat. And then I think it was probably there was the Icon Awards in London in February, and we had a conversation, and the conversation was basically about what had obviously gone on in your life. And obviously, because of what happened to you, you wanted to basically let the world know and you know, tell your story, you know, to warn people of obviously the darker side of things that go on in the world. And I remember you saying to me, I'm thinking of writing a book. I've written it all down. I'm not really sure which way to go. And I sort of said to you, you know, that if I was you, I'd self-publish it. And this is how crazy the world is. You fast forward sort of 8 months, and we're sitting here now. The book's out, and but I think for all of our sort of listeners and viewers, they may not know about the story, and obviously we want them to read your book. But I'd just love to hear your story, Lurata. You know, where you grew up, what your childhood was like, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, Terry, thanks again for giving me this platform, because as you just mentioned, raising awareness has been one of my biggest focus. And I always say this, all the interviews that I've done and people that have come back, I always say, listen, guys, I am not here to preach, neither am I trying to convince you otherwise. I'm literally just sharing my experience in hope, one, that it will save you from the hassle of going through it yourself as a victim, or your future generations, your grandchildren. We need to think really far ahead, considering human trafficking is one of the biggest, literally one of the biggest industry in the world, more than drugs and more than arms.
I didn't even know that.
Literally, it's billions of people, millions of people, $1 billion kind of business, but millions, 150 million people get trafficked every year. That's a huge number. So when you look at it like that, okay, you might say, oh, I haven't been, I'm not affected, or I don't know anyone that's been affected. But okay, I understand. That's great. I am really grateful that you are not affected.
I know somebody.
Yeah.
You.
No, you do, know.
But do you know something? It was weird because when I met you, every time I met you, you was always very happy, always looked glamorous, always, you just, if you'd have come up to me and gone, guess what's happened to me, or guess what some of my life experiences are, I would never in a million years have guessed that you went through that experience. I mean, it is, crazy. And then when you were telling me about it, I was like, oh my God. And I think I said to you, do the book and then do the film. Because, and I also think you've also got to get an A-list actress or an A-list singer to narrate your book.
You did say
that. If
that.
there's any A-list actresses or singers watching this podcast, make sure you get in touch with her, because she's currently looking for somebody to narrate this book. And I think getting somebody like that shines an even bigger spotlight on your story.
I think I'm just will be grateful for everyone's support, including yourself and everyone that's been supporting the book. I mean, it has reached people with huge success. And funny you should mention, the way I look now, but this is the whole point. I try to bring the identity that I had back as a child before my innocence got taken away. It's how I watched my mum dress up, how I watched her be a lady. And, and that was taken away from me. I was completely destroyed. Obviously, when I first made it to the UK as an asylum seeker, illegal asylum seeker, a bit dodgy, but it was what it was then. This is like 20 odd years ago. I didn't look like this. I was a real mess. And maybe in a minute I can maybe get to share a little bit of what happened, but I was starved. I was skin and bones. I was deformed. So I had to have a lot of construction of my face just to look normal again. I had my nose broken, my jaw dislocated, so many teeth missing, my ear had split and it was infected, so it had to be a plastic surgery just to make, I don't have any flexibility on this ear flap. It's literally like a rock, and I don't have any feelings, but it had, in order for me to feel, and unfortunately to feel a little bit more human, they did this for me just so I can regain my strength and overcome, so the scars don't remind me for the rest of my life, although they still do. But yeah, I try to make an effort. I don't want people to think just because somebody looks presentable that they're not going through a tough time. I think everyone is going through a tough time, although people don't speak about it. Some people are ashamed about maybe what they're going through. So I'm not saying you judge me by my cover, but I'm just saying don't ever judge a book by its cover, because you don't know what people are going through. So it's good for you to bring that up, because it's so important. We see celebrities looking their best and trying their best on the red carpet. Like you and I, for example, where we met, we looked immaculate and stuff, but nobody really truly knew my story, and neither do people really, maybe only just now they getting to know Terry Stone. So there's people with so much stories out there, they don't decide to say anything about it.
Well, I read a really good article yesterday, funny enough, and it was talking about, and I don't know if it was on social media, if it was an actual newspaper article, but there was or maybe it was a quote, and it said, whether you're rich, whether you're in the middle, or whether you're poor, pain is real. And I sort of thought about that, and I thought, even if you're a billionaire and to the world you're perceived as having everything and not needing anything, you know, you still get sick, you still lose people, you still go through trauma, you still have issues. You know, money doesn't buy happiness. It helps, but it doesn't mean that you're going to walk around with a smile on your face every day. And you know, I think when I was living on a council estate and I had no money and I was working in McDonald's on £2.65 an hour, I actually think at that point in my life, I was happy. And that sounds mad. I wasn't happy working at McDonald's, but I was happy in that I went home, you know, you had the money to go out, didn't have to worry about bills because you lived with your mum. And you got your food on the table and you saved up and you went on holiday once a year. And that was actually a simple existence. And I think as you go on in life, whatever you do, however successful you become, however rich you become, as you're going up the ladder, you get these things you have to deal with. And you know, life is a roller coaster, right? And whereabouts did you actually grow up though, Loretta? Where?
I was born and raised in former Yugoslavia, which I think maybe the audience that are fairly young, they wouldn't remember former Yugoslavia, but it was one of the most regarded, well-regarded countries at that time. And unfortunately, unlike you see war now with what's going on in the world, it's two different countries fighting each other. We fought each other. So it's like England fighting different counties within the UK.
Right. So it's like fighting the Scottish war. And fighting the Welsh.
Yeah, literally. Like, and so unfortunately...
We do fight though in this country, but it's normally football or rugby.
Yeah, I understand. I've been here a long time. But yeah, we fought each other. And for us, it was really tough because all the borders got shut at that time. And this is when things happened to me, it was in the late 90s. 99 sort of time, 98, 99.
How old was you then?
I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah, so going through 17, almost 18, when I got affected by... When we got affected by war, I was a bit younger than that because our country had war for decades. So it went on for like at least one whole decade. There was always troubles. There's still troubles as we speak. And then when I was around the age of 17, 18, it's where our town got singled out for ethnic cleansing, which massacre that never happened. And when people read the book, they will realize it was my uncle that saved the town. He was a really rich guy and decided to bribe the army just to save the town.
When you say ethnic cleansing, who was doing that? Was that the army or was that the government?
So in Yugoslavia, you've got Albanians and you've got the Serbs and the Romans, which some refer to as gypsies, but they are Romans. And basically, ultimately, because you have Albanian-speaking Catholics as well as Muslims, so it gets really complicated with the religion bit. Oh. And this is why I say the religion sometimes has brought nothing but pain to everyone because it continues to do so. So I prefer a peaceful kind of way of dealing in life rather than using religion as a weapon.
Yeah.
And ethnic cleansing, what I'm trying to say with it is that the town where my parents lived, it was predominantly Albanian-speaking Muslims. And so the Serbian, which lived in Serbia, but the Serbian that are Orthodox and speak only in Serbian, they were the ones that decided to do a massacre in the biggest town. And it's all because... It gets really complicated, all because Kosovo, on the other hand, which was part of Yugoslavia, is were, I should say, Albanian-speaking Muslims and some Catholics. And then the Serbs that lived in Kosovo migrated during the war, or they ran away because it was just a crazy war happening. So because of Kosovo got rescued by NATO at that time, Serbia decided to turn the heat up where NATO wasn't, which meant in actual Serbia borders still. And this is the town where I actually grew up in. Although I wasn't born there, I just grew up there with my parents because my dad is a doctor and he was practicing as a doctor. My mom was practicing languages at school because she's a professor of languages. So I just happened to be there and being raised as a child. But yeah, it's because of that. And when people read the book, they will realize a bit more details. And it's quite educational, I hear, reading the book. But yeah, they decided to do ethnic cleansing just to make a point to NATO that you can't just interfere in a war that's happening inside the borders. And
they were literally just going into people's houses and killing them.
yeah, so they got us into this crease of the mountain, which is still there. I mean, the house is still there, everything is still there, but the memories will haunt me forever. So the crease of the mountain, they marched us into this daunting crease of the mountain, almost at nighttime. And they were given the order to kill everyone. And it was really intense time with children screaming, elderly can hardly walk, and the pregnant women. And it was very emotional. You were marching to end of your life, pretty much to death. We knew what was going to happen because they've done this before in Bosnia, for example. There's so many mass graves they keep reopening. In fact, even in Kosovo, I met one of the soldiers recently that served in Kosovo, and he said so many mass graves that we ended up, coming across. It was just horrific. And so, but we got saved by my uncle. He bribed the army. I don't know what he did. I mean, you'll see in the book, but he managed to save us, but we weren't safe. So long story short, my dad asked me to run away to Kosovo to seek shelter because I was the only child, and ended up in the street of Kosovo looking for help, only to be discovered by 2 American police officers, Peter and Brian, which are actually named, a picture of them is inside the book, and they are happy to be featured in the book because I dedicated this book to them. I wanted to literally tell the world how well they treated me, and considering they were not my religion, not my nationality, they literally cared about my safety so much so that they risked almost their work in Kosovo, their stations, their position, just to give me shelter. So they discovered me in the streets of Kosovo, and I asked them, this translator was translating for us, I said, could you take me to the Red Cross? My dad asked me to go to the Red Cross. And the police officers refused to take me to the Red Cross because they knew that something wasn't quite right at the Red Cross, the people that were running it. And only later on I learned, I should say, that at the Red Cross there was lots of corruption going. So the youngsters they were missing. And because I was from Serbia, they knew that the moment I entered the Red Cross shelter, I was going to be missing straight away because I've crossed illegally, I've crossed the borders during the war. And it was like an enemy line going on, lots of hate. And so they gave me shelter. I lived with them for a while. We became best of friends. I cooked, I cleaned their uniforms. And although I couldn't speak English at all, we managed to communicate, and we had a translator and so on. But yeah, they to this day, they're still my friends and we're still in touch. We managed to reunite over the phone. One of them I met in person, one I didn't yet. Maybe for the documentary we can do the reunion. But unfortunately, the translator that was translating for the UN police officers from Kosovo, he had told the human trafficking gang of Kosovo at that time, there is a young girl from Serbia with 2 American police officers, that you should, it's a good opportunity to take her away.
So these Kosovan people trafficking gangs, I mean, was it like is it like a mafia organisation, or was it some business people, or was it the government? Who's actually behind it, or do you not know?
I mean, they claim to be that they've served in the army during the war, some kind of illegal army that was formed during the war.
So probably like mercenaries or whatever.
Yeah, not the real legit. And then they had so much hatred in them. I mean, I speak Albanian and Serbian fluently, and looking at our religion, because I did communicate with them, I'm like, don't do this to me. I'm a Muslim girl, a virgin girl, because they wanted to rape me, and it was the whole ordeal. When the boss gave the order, once I got captured and the boss wanted to see it's when I screamed, I'm a Muslim, I'm a virgin. And they stopped because they realized they have stumbled, so they said, across a huge cargo. Personally, I thought cargo meant goods and stuff that we ship across different countries, but I never in a million years would I have thought, until I faced it myself, that humans are actually a huge cargo. And this is why it's the biggest business in the world right now in many different levels, not just for sex exploitation or organ harvesting, but just for about anything, just slavery in general. And yeah, and so I'd say these guys claim to be some kind of army of Kosovo. They failed quite terribly in life, so they created this gang, I would say worse than mafia, because they are very dangerous. I think every human trafficking gang in the world are not to be underestimated. They are extremely dangerous, and they will do anything and everything to get that child off your hand, literally, or to get you into a truck.
Is there like an age? Do they look at a certain age, or is it mainly sort of 16, 17, 18-year-old girls? Do they do it to boys as well? Is it mainly?
They do it to boys and girls, to any age, but obviously the younger they are, with the pedophilia going on, people that are preying in the young children with all these rituals that they've got going on for the blood and sex. I mean, I speak to agents regularly, and they tell me that a child, and this is very disturbing what I'm going to say, a child gets 20 to 25 times a day by these monsters. And then I just find myself losing sleep still, because one, I'm really affected what happened to me, although I've healed, and I'm trying to raise awareness and, just trying to be an inspiration at the same time for people that are going through a tough time, no matter what they're going through. Like you mentioned earlier, we could go through anything. Pain is pain, and it doesn't get measured from 1 to 10. Everyone has a different threshold to pain. But what pains me is that this is still going on. Everybody knows this is still going on. Children are being taken for sex trafficking, and then ultimately their organs get harvested and sold to the black markets. I mean, there's so many cases I've been following that there's a guy in Germany, he got a heart transplant and when he was a baby. And this is during the war in Yugoslavia, in Serbia, Kosovo-Serbia war. And I only saw this on the net, actually. You probably can find it again. When he grew up, 20 years later, he said to his mom and dad, I would really like to thank the family that donated this heart from the baby. And they said, well, son, you can search, maybe we do a DNA. I don't know quite how these things work, but he actually told us on this article online how he did it. And his DNA led him to Albania, and then from Albania to Kosovo. When he reached the family, eventually he reached the family, and mom and dad were unfortunately still alive, because living with a child that's gone missing for 20 years, somebody steps on your door and goes, thank you for donating the heart of your kid. And mom goes, what? My kid has gone missing for 20 years. Mom never knew what happened to the kid. And that could have been me, because they told me, they said, Lurata, because I was really constantly trying to manipulate these guys. I speak their language, so I was just like, please don't do this to me. They're like, we've sold you to the highest bidder. I was the only one that they kept safe. They were keeping me like a treasure. All the other girls that were raping, abusing them, that came in and out into this safe house. Because I had to be taught as a virgin girl how to perform sexual acts. So I had to watch these girls being raped unconscious. And for me, it just ruined my whole imagination of intimacy, because I just found it so monstrous. And then after they taught me so much, they had sold me to the highest bidder. They thought I was ready, because I was literally made to watch daily. It's very sick.
It's horrifying.
It is, and I don't mean to scare people, but one, we just need to all just have the decency to accept that this is going on. Don't question people that are telling you somebody's being trafficked.
I'm actually surprised that they haven't actually set up people to find these fucking people.
There is people finding these people. There's people that are finding these people and putting an end to it.
Well, I think they need to
And
be
there
wiped
is-
off the face of the earth, personally.
And people that are just finding the people and trying to rescue the children. So, I mean, Sound of Freedom, that was done by Mel Gibson. I so want to meet Mel Gibson and give him a big hug, because it takes real guts, real courage.
I've not actually seen that. Loretta. What is that? Is that a documentary or is that an actual
It's
film?
a film. They did a film. It's based on true event. It's a soldier. It's an agent that actually gave up his position because he realized what's going on. And the boss said to him, I mean, you need to watch the film, but they said to him, look, you can't go as an agent undercover and just like rescue these children. You got to back away. You can't. It's bigger than us. He's like, oh, I'm going to go to Latin America. Here's my badge. I'm done. So he invested all this money to go undercover in Latin America to find this kid. And then he found one boy, and then he had to find his sister. And the amount of crying I did watching this film, because I know it's real. And people think, oh my God, that was disturbing to watch. I'm like, well, suck it up, because these people are going for real. So at least if you can't digest it, just try and detach yourself, but just support the film, support the documentary, support the cause. Try and do some charity around it. Try to support the agent, the charities that are going out there to, you know, give their heart and soul to the survivors if they're even lucky to make it through.
So the girls that you was with in this safe house, and you was obviously objected to all this trauma watching these things going on. I mean, did you did you ever see any of the girls again, or literally once they'd been bought or whatever, they just went off and that was it, and you didn't know whether they'd been killed, whether they'd been put into some sort of sex work, or they'd been killed and had all their organs taken out? I mean, did you ever get reunited with any of that?
I never saw the girls again, Terry, but one thing they told me is that we've sold you to the highest bidder, and once the highest bidder is done with you, they'll return you to us, and you then go into a general prostitution, so meaning anybody and everything. Once, because I think they drug the girls and stuff, you know, I don't know what they've done, and luckily I didn't go that far. I'm really grateful. But they said once everyone is done with you, then we take your organs and we sell it to the red. I keep saying red market, to the black market, and it was really hard information to digest for me, because it's like what?
So basically, it's sort of like, we're going to train you up to do these sex acts. We're going to sell you to this guy or this woman or whoever's got the money. You're going to go off. When they're finished, they go, have her back, and then they put you out as a shoot.
Yeah.
And then when you're done there, when you get to whatever age they think, you know, you've exceeded your earning potential, then they just take your organs out.
Yeah.
Sell them.
They don't let anyone escape, because...
So they're basically looking at humans as a product. They're not looking at them. So it's when you're talking about cargo or stock, they're actually they're looking at humans as a commodity.
Absolutely. That's why you don't get so many survivors making it through. There is, for example, I think there is different levels. Unfortunately, I had a very dangerous gang, and they told me exactly what was going to happen. I mean, these guys are very well known. Right. And my police officers, American police officers, they knew all about them, because once I gave my interview at the police station when I escaped them, they said, you are the only survivor and you need to appear in court and in Hague, which is the highest court in Europe. And I was like, I'm not doing any of this. I need to go back to Serbia. And even if I die by the bullets or our army, I'm happy to die. I just wanted to run away from, I accepted death, instant death, rather than slow death. It was coming anyway. So.
I mean, how did you feel? I mean that. How old was you then when
17, Terry.
So at 17, you're actually just accepting that.
I don't know if I accepted it. I was just like, it was it was like it's so crazy, so out of my imagination, my innocence. It's not something, I never even watched films like that, let alone someone to tell me in person that what was going to happen to me. And hence why when I hear stories of children going missing or girls going missing, I instantly put them in my shoe and I'm thinking, oh my God, are they being told this? And
I mean,
how they feel.
why would these people tell you what they're going to do? Was it just because they were just torturing you,
Oh,
or
Terry, they're so manipulative. You know, they just lie. I think they feed on fear of people. I was the only one with them. So the boss, I mean, people will read the book and will see the boss he actually started fancying me towards the end of my time with these gangs. And he was trying to persuade me. I don't mean to spoil the book, but he, at one point, just before they were about to hand me over, we'd spend a night together and he insisted to sleep in the same bed with me because they had a girl constantly with us, which was his kind of servant. It was like his lover of some kind. And she was always with us. But in this particular journey, just before they handed me over, or tried to hand me over, he spent a night with me on my own. And he tried to convince me to give myself to him. He said, if you give yourself to me with your, you know, with your heart and soul, basically, if you approve that you can be mine, all of this, I'll make all of this go away. You'll only be mine. And I just couldn't do it, Terry. I couldn't, I refused him. He was so angry. Regardless of what I said to him, he still managed to pleasure himself, but not against me, but not inside me. He didn't ruin me, so I was still a cargo for him because I didn't accept him. But the psychological abuse they give you, I mean, because I was communicating with them, I speak Albanian, so I was like, guys, why are you doing this to me? I'm the only kid. My mom is going to be worried about me. And I'm like, why are you? I'm not Serbian. I'm Serbian, but I'm not Orthodox. I'm still like you. And they're like, oh, wait, I mean, foul language, just swearing and all of that. Oh, we sold you. Wait until you see what's going to happen to you. It's just manipulative. It did mess up with my mind big time. So they did succeed in a sense of scaring me. I was petrified of them. They still haunt me in my dreams.
so how long was you sort of in this environment? Was it a year or was it 6 months?
With these guys, I was, because I got taken twice. So this is the kidnapping. And the second one was I was taken by the soldiers of Serbia because I crossed borders. So with these guys, I was only a short amount of time till they trained me. It's all detailed in the book because I had to do a lot of research. I had to phone Brian up and say, Brian, do you remember how long I was gone for? Because my mind is just fired up. So all these people that are included in the book have helped me bring these information back to pen, because after what happened with the whole story, my mind just lost track of time, and you will see why. Because after I escaped them, I gave the interview, then I got reunited with Brian and Peter, the two American police officers. We spent the night together with like few hours of what was left of that night. The next morning, I had to then make my way back to Serbia, same way as I went into Kosovo. So cross the mountain on my own. And then when I reached that town, which is right on the border, it was like a ghost town. Found my mom and dad hiding in the basement. And it's when my mom screamed, she said, you shouldn't have come back, it's so dangerous. I'm like, Mom, I have so much to tell you. You don't understand how dangerous it's on the other side. I've been taken. I was just wanting to tell her, I'm like, you don't understand that human trafficking is real. And I never had the chance to tell her because the Serbian army, so the Serbian army, this is another thing. It's very important for the listeners and they can do their own research. During the war in Serbia, we had the regular army, which they always served, the Serbian governments, and they wore uniform and boots and as you expect an army to look. During the war, however, Milosevic recruited. He asked the army commanders to recruit from prisons people that kill at will. They rape and they kill. These are ex-rapists, ex-killers, all from the prisons. How did they then decide to know the difference between the real army And the army that was recruited is by having them wear trainers, like Nike trainers, all white. They all had the same trainers, and they were really dangerous. They were killing, they were doing massacres, they were raping. They were horrific. So unfortunately for me, it was the army with the trainers on that came to collect me from my parents' garden. Because they were watching, and they were all mixed, but these guys decided to do what they did. So they came with this big truck into my parents' garden, and my mom started screaming, and I didn't even know what the panic was about. I was still, regardless of human trafficking experience, I still was so naive in my head. I still didn't understand the danger that it was about to happen and what was coming. So they took me into the van, and I left my mom in the middle of the garden screaming and crying. My dad was comforting her. I said, Mom, don't worry, because I can just explain it to our army that I've been, I was thinking, I'm going to speak my truth, and then that's going to save me. And they took me and they imprisoned me after the interrogation. These guys broke my jaw, my nose. I have teeth missing on each side. And my ear got split, and there's so many things. They branded me, and I had to laser remove all sorts of things. But they imprisoned me for 6 months in a small, dark, abandoned room, abandoned building, where there was always these soldiers, illegal kind of soldiers at that time. But they were just raping me daily and abusing me psychologically. So what I thought it was going to be a short time, and it turned into 6 months. I didn't know it had gone 6 months, because I went through a real psychological challenge from just really like trying to switch off my emotions, when they were raping me. It was really hard to, it's very painful when you have adults coming into this small room and you treat it like worse than an animal. They come in and they rape you at will. And they torment you. And here I was starving myself. I didn't want to be anymore, Terry. I just wanted to go. And I thought, if I starve myself, if I do all of this, it will be the end of me. And then I was ready to, just like I said in the book, I was ready to meet my maker, but it just wasn't happening. And then I started singing to myself, and I can't sing. Don't ask me to sing. And just singing.
That makes two of us. I can't sing either.
But yeah, just like thinking of my mum's food and all the people that inspired me through my teenage life, like Nelson Mandela, Princess Diana, and just people like that I grew up looking up to. And then I realized I was doing what we know now as meditation. I was literally meditating while it's weird to even imagine it, but while I was being raped, I was just sort of completely in a different, it's almost like my soul was completely detached from my body.
So you sort of psychologically switch off.
Psychologically, I was completely somewhere else. I mean, I was losing it as well at the same time. I mean, I wasn't myself. I was psychologically losing it. I hadn't seen natural light in 6 months. I didn't know what the time was. It was pitch black the whole time. So I didn't know, is midnight, daytime, because they were coming in and out as they pleased. The room that I was in, it became my bathroom, my everything. And then as and when they decided to give me a shower, it was really brutal shower. It was weird. It's like almost like a twisted thriller, kind of psychological, provoking book. What happens in these 6 months? Sorry, you need to sometimes I need to catch a breath.
No, it's fine. But do you know something? When you was in. When you was over the other side and you was with those people and they was selling you, and they said
trafficking, yeah.
And they said they was going to. How did you actually get away from them people? Because you obviously said you met the American police guys.
Again, yeah.
But so you met the American police guys when you went in.
Yeah.
And then you went to the Red Cross, and then you got taken by these people?
No, I never went to the Red Cross. The American police officers, they gave me shelter in their own home,
That's
in
right,
their
yeah.
apartment. And then they said to me, how I got taken from them was, so this is going back to the story. They said to me, look, when we at work, you never leave the apartment on your own, because I wasn't allowed to leave on my own. But they didn't have electricity at times. It was still post-war, kind of, the electricity was measured. I don't know, they had these times where was no electricity. So I got really bored. I'd done all the chores around the house, washed the uniforms for them. Not that they asked me to, but I just wanted to help and be useful, because I was staying with them, eating their food. Right. And so I went outside. I thought, what's the worst that could happen? There was a stand with some magazines. I speak the Albanian language. I'm going to get a magazine or newspaper and just flick through it, because I was going mad. And that was a mistake that I made. And I had to pay it quite.
And did they just snatch you off the street?
They were waiting. The apartment was constantly being watched.
So they knew you was there, basically.
Yeah, apparently.
But you think somebody in the Red Cross tipped him off?
No, it was the guy, the translator for the 2 UN police officers. Wow. He tipped them off. He said, there is a young girl with my 2 guys that I translate for. There's a young girl from Serbia, worth a look. And so they were watching the apartment the whole time. So,
and then when you went out, then you got snatched.
They literally, they picked me up so quickly, Terry. This is what I mean. It's so easy to kidnap a person. There were 2 guys. They just lifted me up off the floor like a feather, and I was thrown into obviously they put something over my head, black, like a hoodie or like something. And they just shoved me into the van. But it happened so quickly. In fact, the thought I remember at that time, because their wheels squeaked into the pavement in front of me, so I don't reach the stand pretty much. They didn't know where I was going, but still, they sort of in front of me, and I was about to tell them off, just excuse me, like, guys, watch out. This is a pavement. You can't be here with a truck, with a van. And I was just like gone like a doll.
And obviously he was going through this. I'm sorry that we've kind of gone back, right? Yes. But obviously there was a bit of that was missing. Yeah. So obviously you went through the that process, and then when you come, you were told, like, on that last day that you was going to be, you could sleep with this guy, you could become his woman or whatever. Yeah. And then all this other stuff was happening. What actually happened? How did you actually escape from there?
So Terry, the next morning, this guy, obviously I didn't give myself to him. He was very disappointed with me. And again, loads of details in the book. But next morning we got up and we drove to the border with Albania from Kosovo. And the Italian police that were controlling that particular station, border control, they said the border is shut till further notice in their language. I don't know. They spoke to the guys. I was at the back with 2 guards. The boss was sitting in front with the driver, and I had 2 of these guys next to me with guns both on both sides of my waist. So I could feel the guns there. I mean, that in itself was fairly nerve-wracking, because I knew that if I couldn't even do anything to tell the police officers, hey, I couldn't even scream, because they would have shot everyone. So the border was shut, and they were like, oh, come on, you got to let us go. And they're like, no, it's shut till further notice. So the boss said, okay, we got to go back to our safe house, and then we'll try another time, because we don't know when the border is going to open. And he was mad at me already. We stopped at these restaurants on the way, because it was a very good sort of drive back to the main town, which is Pristina, from where we were. I believe it was Pej, where the border is near Pej, yeah. And on the way back, we stopped at this restaurant, and I said to them, I need to go to the toilet. Obviously, in a public place, they wouldn't stop me. But every time we stopped, there was a restaurant stopping and a coffee shop, because they had few meetings. I think he was doing dodgy business. Every time I went to the bathroom, I would make a scene, because the guns were not out. So it was a good opportunity for me to at least try to look in distress, because otherwise I was kept quiet. And so I would go towards the bar with 2 guards with me or 1. And then by the time I would reach the bar, the guard is with me, and he would just grab me and threw me, and like as if to say, walk this way, that's where the toilet is. And that was enough for the staff to see that something wasn't right. And then the second time, I literally was trying to speak to the staff, and then that's when I got punched, and the staff realized something really is not right. So what happened, we don't really know exactly, but when we reached the safe house, it was nighttime by then, so almost before midnight, the boss got inside, everything was fine. All of a sudden, he has a phone call. And I remember him, we're all standing in this small corridor kind of thing, like as you walk in the apartment. He was looking at me, and he's on the phone, on a little mobile phone. And he goes, right, okay, yeah, in Albanian. And he goes, right, boys, we need to abandon this safe house. This is not safe anymore. We need to, but she's staying with one of you. Rape her, kill her, do what we do. And that's when my adrenaline really kicked in, because now, up until that point, I had time. I didn't know what was happening immediately. It was a time frame of being sold and this and that. So it looked like the opportunity for escape was a lot more than when I heard that I needed to be raped and killed. That's when I realized, okay, this is the end. And I actually really accepted it. I thought, no, this is the end. This is it. And he left his guard with me. I remember him. He was very young. And he said, you heard, come on, you heard. And the guy left, so the boss left, and he was swearing and all sorts to me, because it's like, you are more trouble than you are worth it. She's more trouble than she's worth it. And I'm thinking, what did I do? You know, what's happening? And I was really scared. I started trembling, and I got into this living room where where they did the rapes and stuff. And he said that we have to do this. He had the gun out. I'm like, look, I don't want to mention his name. I can't remember if I mentioned him in the book, but I said, please don't do this, because I knew all of their names. They never hid their names from me because they never thought I would escape. I said, look, I know this is happening, but I need to pray. I really needed to pray. For once in my life, I turned to religion. I really needed to pray, Terry. I felt so disappointed in myself, and I thought my mom and dad would never know what happened to me. And so he said, okay, fair play, you pray. And I said, let's do this in a nice way, because I'm dying anyway. I said, I'm weak, I'm a girl. He's like, okay. And he went to the bathroom. And as I'm down on the floor and I'm praying like Muslims do, and I'm literally praying just for forgiveness, in terms of, forgive me, I don't know what I've done wrong, but okay, it's okay. I'm accepting it, but I wasn't really accepting it, because I really wanted to make contact with my mom and dad one more time and just tell them, Mom, Dad, I'm dying. I love you. This is what's happening. I don't know why I had this urge to give them a message. Sorry. And as I'm praying there, and it's like a magic happened. It was this glass table on my left-hand side, and I heard this cling. He left the gun, and he left the keys. The doors were locked. And I heard that. I didn't raise my head to look or anything yet. I just thought, what was that? I heard the water in the bathroom. The bathroom was near the doors, the main doors, after this little corridor. And I just sort of looked around just to see what was on the table. It was the gun and the keys. And I'm thinking, what do I do? What is it that I do right now? You know, what do I do? I don't want to touch the gun. I don't even know how to use the gun. So I decided to grab the key.
I know what I'd have done. I'd have put one straight in his fucking nut.
Oh, Terry, I don't know. Maybe I'd act differently now. I'm so wise and so not angry, but so angry for what's happening to other children that I think I probably would have grabbed the gun. I would grab the gun now maybe, but then I didn't touch the gun. I took the keys, and it was like only 2 keys, you know, a bunch of little keys, but 2 that stood out. And I thought, what do I do? Which one is which? So I approached the door, and what I mentioned in the book, but it's worth telling the viewers, when you reach the door, the door from the inside looks normal. It's a wooden door like any other door. So I open that, fine. The guy didn't hear me yet. When I start fiddling with the second door, which is a prison door with rails full on, I didn't know that you're supposed to open it the opposite direction. So I started fiddling with a big key, and I was panicking. I was trembling, I was shaken. And I was like, oh my God, I need to open this. I just literally started like going mad at it. And I started making a lot of noise. And he's like, why, what's happening? In Albanian. At that point, the door had just opened, and I went flying with the door because he opened towards the front. And I saw the stairs, and I'm like flying down the stairs from the 4th floor, like literally going down the stairs, but I could hear his footsteps. Like I still hear them today, Terry. It's funny how when something like this happens, it's life-changing. You hear every little, you have made noise of every little detail, every little smell that has tormented you. It will always stay with you. So those steps behind, I think he was jumping stairs. I could only do 2 or 3 at a time. He was literally jumping them all, and I could hear his heaviness coming towards me. But luckily, when I reached the last door, which led to the main street of that building, he punched me so hard that I went flying onto the main road, and it was after midnight at this point. And I lost a bit of consciousness, I think, for a split second or so. And when I opened my eyes, I could see the sky dark, and I looked around, and then I spotted this car parking. The red lights, you know, when you park a car in the night, it just flashes red at the back. And I thought, oh, there is life there. I mean, it was quick thinking. I started screaming for help in Albanian. And this guy was approaching me because I had gone further away from him from the punch. So he's approaching me and to kill me. And so the police officer that was parking the car, lucky, it was an Italian police officer. He realized I'm in distress, so he started coming towards me. I'm crawling towards him. This guy is behind me walking, trying to get me. And he started shooting at the police officer. And the police officer started shooting at him. At this point, I'm hearing the guns going, but I'm crawling. I'm still crawling towards the police officer because I can see it's a police officer. And when I reached him, he just really just held me like this, grabbed me and pulled me towards where the Jeep was, opened the Jeep door, shielded me behind the Jeep door, reached inside and got a walkie-talkie thing that was plugged into the truck. And he called all units. I mean, it didn't take long, like seconds. I don't know how many police cars were there, all the United Nations, German police officers, Americans, English. There was so many different nationalities that they were all in the area patrolling. So when this guy called for help, they all came, they all had translators. At that point, Harry, I lost my plot. I was just crying with everything that I had. I was like, I've been kidnapped, guys. I need to go. And they're like, no, calm down. You need to calm down. So they had to calm me down. I'm like, don't touch me. I didn't want anyone to touch me. They said, we need to take you to the police station. The translators were saying, you can't behave like this. I'm like, don't touch me. Can't behave like that. I can behave how I wish right now. Excuse me. I was disturbed. I mean, I was in panic. I don't know what was happening. It's like, I didn't even know if I'm still in safety or not. I didn't trust anyone. So I don't know what happened to that guy, the shooting, and I think that some of the police officers went chasing after him, and then probably they went upstairs to the building, because I said, is the building there, 4th floor, you can go and, I gave them directions. I said, it's up there. I don't know what happened there. I didn't care anymore. I just knew I was with loads of police officers. They took me to the station in Kosovo, and I gave an interview, and it was this Albanian-speaking Kosovo police officer, probably my dad's age at that time, approached me, said, could I give you a hug? I said, no, don't touch me. He said, he started crying, and I was like, what the heck, is this some twist here? I didn't trust Harry. I didn't care about anyone's tears at that point. He said, no, he said, you're the only survivor that's made it through from these guys. You've given an interview, and now we can arrest them. Finally, we've been searching high and low for survivors, for anyone that could testify. People are scared of them. So we've got you here, you've just given. I'm like, I knew these were really dangerous. I didn't know they were the biggest gangs that everybody feared. They were so dangerous that to this day, everybody fears them. They are so connected. They are so dangerous that to this day, they walk free. They got arrested, of course. They served certain amount of time. A lot of people got exposed because of them, including people in the government in Kosovo, because one of my friends here in London is from Kosovo, and he just gives me all the updates. His father was an ex-police officer. So through him, I used to find out all about the news and stuff, what's happening with them, because internet wasn't as established as it is now. Whereas now you put their names down and everything comes up because they are just so big in the news for a good reason. And yeah, that's how I managed to escape them the first time. I mean, it was super lucky. I was really lucky.
And then when you left, obviously then you wanted to go home,
Yeah.
see your mum and dad, and then that takes us back to when you was there. And how long was you there before those other people came?
No, I literally just, so after this, I reunited with Brian and Peter, as mentioned before. They said, you got to go now back to Serbia. You are not safe here. We are not safe. We need to change apartment. You are not safe with us. You are not safe at the Red Cross because it's corrupt. At that time, it was really corrupt. Not the Red Cross, but people that ran the actual Red Cross during the war. So they said, there is no other choice, I'm afraid. You have to go back to Serbia and it's not safe. It's a lot of bombing happening. And I said, I don't care. I just want to go. So I went back, and as soon as I made it into my parents, within like 20 minutes, 30 minutes being in the grounds of our town, I got taken from their garden and then imprisoned for 6 months illegally.
What you've been through, you know, it's shocking, and just to think that you've gone through that experience and you think you're home with your mum and dad, and then that happens again. I mean, at that point, what was going through your head at that point, Lurata? I mean, you must have been...
I don't know, Terry, my innocence got taken away. Just... I don't wish it upon anyone. You know, growing up in general, it's you know, life changes and shapes us and stuff, but when you are pressed in such pressure, kind of short space of time, I say short, for me it was a lifetime. People sometimes live through their life and luckily they don't experience anything like this, and then you are put into this and it's like, I feel like I'm so old because it's made me feel like it was so long that I was...
Well, do you know something? I think anybody that's watching or listening to this podcast, whatever trauma they're going through or whatever challenges or pain they're going through, they're probably listen to your story and say, "Fucking hell, I'm actually doing all right." Do you know what I mean? Because there's an old saying, whatever you're going through, somebody's always going through something worse. Do you know what I mean? Whatever you think's bad, there's something worse. You know, it's when you're doing something good, someone's doing better. You know, there's always someone better. There's always someone worse. But I honestly can't think of anything worse than what you've been through.
Terry, thank you. But honestly, sometimes I get people that I had in Singapore. I lived in Singapore for 5 years, and when I was speaking on stages and so on, I had this cancer patient come and see me after I gave my speech, and she said, "You've just given me hope to beat cancer." I broke down. I said, "How could I inspire you to beat cancer? I mean, that's something completely different. That's much worse than what I've been through." So there is always worse than what I've been through, and what I've been through has taught me a lot. And luckily, I made it, you know, that I can tell a story and raise awareness more than anything. My passion, my complete focus now is just to really such great passion to raise awareness. I don't want anyone to go through this. I wish I had a switch so I can just press it and it will just, I will make everything go away for everyone, you know, especially when it comes to children being abused and people with human trafficking. And But I think everyone, whatever people are going through, is because it's happening to them. It's the level of that they're going through. It's because they don't know any other way. That's enough in itself. So I will never say to someone, "Oh my God, you should hear my story. It's worse than yours." I just say that
It's not a competition, is it?
yeah, it's not a competition. It's completely. I get it. I mean, if you lost a loved one and you're grieving, you have to go through the process. It shapes us. It molds us. If you're facing a medical condition, it's about not accepting it, and it's about making the right decisions for you at that time, and it's about overcoming it. And for me, what saved me, Terry, because yes, all the physical savior and stuff, what really truly saved me to be here and speak like this is positive thinking, practicing positive affirmations and loving myself, to learn to really love myself again, because I hated myself. I hated for all that I was. Everything reminded me of my experience. And imagine living with something that reminds you constantly. They've been inside you. They've touched every single cell of you. You can't get rid of that. The energy that they leave behind after they've been abused, after scars. But being able to feel sorry for them instead, for the monsters that they are. And I often say this, I wonder what happened to them to have turned out so negative and so willing to hurt people like this. I wonder what happened to these little boys and these little humans that turn into adults, but into proper monsters. So turning that in terms of not feeling sorry for me, but rather feeling sorry for the person that inflicts pain in you. And then seeing yourself as growth, as a lesson, and love yourself again, and it starts forgiving yourself, that kind of stuff. It's what actually I am so proud of, because yes, it was Lurata, the little girl that was such a fighter. So it doesn't even, I feel like it's two different people. Sorry, because I thank her all the time, because I don't know if I could do it myself now. She was so strong. Oh, my child's soul was so strong. Maybe I came into this earth to raise awareness, make a difference. I'm sorry I'm crying so much, but it's just so much going on still in the world, you know, and I can't help but cry, because I just wish, like I said, I could have a switch and turn it off. There's so many kids go missing daily. So many people get missing, exploited and abused. And because war, you know, Terry, I say war is not just war in another country. War is in your own home. You know, if you have an abusive partner, regardless of gender, that is war in itself. So war is whatever you are going through. And so it's just about finding positivity and trying to say no, and learn to say no to something that you can say no to and walk away from it. So yeah, thanks to her, I'm here, and I'm telling my teenage story, and I've tried to make her proud, because she initially saved me, my younger self. And I'm just trying to make her proud, because I don't think my younger self saved for me to be an adult. I know I'm speaking like it's two people here, but it almost is, because I've changed so much. To be able to heal and give back to nations around the world, and give hope, and share just that anything, you could go through anything, and if you think in a positive way, you will make it through. It's just how you think about your day life is very important when you wake up in the morning, and your thoughts, and you have to be careful with your thoughts, because you're always speaking to yourself. So things like that, I think we need to start being kind to ourselves, because often we are not so kind. You know, we're like, oh, you're looking like this. We always say this to ourselves. And if we spoke like that to our friends wouldn't want to be our friends. They would say, oh, you're looking fat today. It's like, what? This is what we speak to ourselves. We look in the mirror, I'm like, oh my God, you need some makeup because you look ugly today. Makeup, eh? But, you know, we need to be kind. And I'm learning to be kind to myself every day. You know, the little creepy thoughts, that sometimes the doubts that creep into my head, I'm like, no, I'm not having any of this. I've set my boundaries so high. I don't allow any disrespect. If people start to disrespect me, I will not engage. I will simply just disengage and let them have the moment, because it doesn't define me. It's not going to change my mission. It's not going to change me, because I've had so much abuse that no matter what people say to me now, it's never going to affect me. I've got an immunity to...
You probably just laugh at me and say, is that what you got?
Well, it's just very... I think people should really, before we say, like all in general, before we bring people down or try to bring them down, we should really think about how that's reflecting on us, because it's a reflection of us, of our bitterness, of our hate, rather than identity of someone else.
You know what? I do feel you when you was talking about how you feel and the despair because you want to be able to just turn a switch and fix it, you know. And I think the problem is there are monsters in the world. There are haters in the world. There are people that thrive on negativity and upsetting people in the world. And I just think, you know, like I know people go, oh yeah, it was because of my childhood, or it was because of this, or it was because of that. But I think in life, everyone has a choice, right? You can either go left or right. And if you go right and it happens to be the wrong way, you've made that choice. So you have to live with it. So if you want to be abusive or, like you said, do these monstrosities to people, something's going to come. You're going to get, something's going to happen to you. You know, I'm a great believer in karma. So, you know, I always look at people and I judge people by their actions and also their words. But I do think that, you know, when you see people just doing whatever they do, I think people like to think they can change people or help people or guide them in the right direction. But I think, unfortunately, lots of people have got their journey, their agenda. And
well, people need to make that decision themselves. So I always say you can't change people. You can share. I can never change anyone's perspective on this. I only share in hope that I just shine the light on this. But for example, going back to we have a choice. Yes, we do have a choice, because I wasn't like this. I was bitter. I just didn't want to be. I mean, the danger really became even more so when I made it to the UK, because I was in a suicidal watch. I was depressed. I was in all sorts of medication.
Can we talk about that? Because we haven't.
Yeah,
we
of
haven't,
course,
we
it's a mental health issue. You know,
because what we did talk about was we talked about, obviously you was in this cell for 6 months and you were being abused by these people in your own country. How did that sort of come to an end, and how did you then escape from that? Because I mean, if you've survived where you shouldn't have survived the first time, and then now you're back to square one essentially. So how did you actually get away or get out of that situation?
my dad bailed me out after. So during the war, it was really hard to sort of circulate around town or anything. But he went and spoke to, because I've asked him since, and he spoke to someone he knew in the police station. He said, look, my daughter's gone missing by the army. They were trainers. Could you find where she is? Is she being held for something? I mean, I know we're at war, but she's a child. And he said, we haven't heard anything, but I can ask the army, the real army, if they know anything. He said, leave it with me. This is a Serbian guy. So Terry, you see, there is good and bad in every culture. So there was bad in Kosovo, and there's some amazing people in Kosovo, and they were and they are. Some of them are my friends. In Serbia, I love my nation. I love Serbian culture. I'm proud to say I'm from Serbia. But there was evil during the war. So it was good and bad. Right. So in everywhere, there is always good and bad. Yeah. And so my dad's friend from the police station, he then spoke to the army. And this is how my dad located me. So he spoke to the army. This is not in the book, by the way. This is just extra, maybe on the second book. But he spoke to the army, and they said, look, the real army will never hold a child that is underage. Even, we just don't do that. We would maybe kill to fight, and we would kill someone by accident, a child by accident, but we would not hold them. What's going on? Let us do the research. So the real army in that war zone decided to do a research to see where is this girl being held and who is holding her. Eventually, they came to the conclusion that I was being held by the army that was formed during the war, which I mentioned, the prisoners of war. You know, they were prisoners that was recruited during the war. And they said to the police officer, tell her dad we cannot interfere. They've been appointed as the army, but we can't interfere. Whatever they're deciding to do now, it's out of our hand. The only way maybe is to bribe them somehow. And the police officer, how can we bribe them? I mean, we need to get the girl out. She's been gone, she's been missing for months and months. And is she still alive? They said, we hear she's still alive. They're treating her badly. So if you can get her, if they can take her from there, just make the father aware that the girl is not okay. You know, and my dad is a doctor as well. So my dad decided to gather some money from the cousins and people that he had in the areas, whatever they had, because it was all cash at that time. Found the police officer, and my dad went to find this house where I was being held. And the police officer said, I leave you here with your car, but I can't get involved. My dad said, don't worry, you got me so far. I'm going to knock on the door myself. So my dad entered the building. They opened the door for my dad. I didn't know this was happening outside. And the soldier came and he said, there is someone here to see you. And I was like a zombie. I wasn't myself. I was a mess. I'd lost so much weight. Psychologically, I wasn't okay. I wasn't making sense of anything. And he grabbed me and he sort of took me to the room, and I could hear my dad's talking and his voice. I recognized it, and I'm like, this is for real. So I walked into this room. I saw my dad and I saw his face when he saw me. He went from talking to this guy to literally like his jaw just dropped. And I was like in Albanian, because the Serbians don't speak Albanians and I speak both languages. And I said to my dad, what took you so long? He's like, shh. It's like, we don't want to talk. They're like, what are you guys talking about? You know, they really were so vicious. And this is in the book, actually. And I thought that maybe my mom has died, or I didn't know. I didn't know how long I'd been gone. He put me in the car, covered me up because I couldn't stand the light, the broad daylight. It was really harsh for me, natural light. He put this blanket over me because I kept doing this. I couldn't see, Terry. I couldn't look at the light. It was really harsh when you've been in a dark room for so long, and then all of a sudden you get this bright light. You just can't look at it. It's really intense. He covered me with a blanket at the back of the car. And I said, Dad, just tell me, is my mum dead? He's like, no, she's alive. You'll see. I said, okay. And then I sort of drifted off in the back of the car. My dad didn't drive very far. And I knew I wasn't very far either, because when they took me, it didn't take very long to get to this building. And then my mom and dad, my mom washed me. Obviously, my mom was petrified when she saw me, and they decided to wash me. And my dad was treating my scars and stuff and my infection on my ear. And my mom had cooked some food and she wants me to eat. I couldn't eat. I mean, my stomach had shrunk. I was bones and skeleton. And I fell asleep on my mom's lap and she was stroking my head, and we were waiting for the night to fall for some reason. I didn't know why, but I just kept nodding off. And my dad started shushing with my mom, like they were like talking to each other. I'm like, what is going on, guys? I was ready to die, Terry. That was actually the most peaceful. I remember it sometimes, you know, when I'm going through a tough time now, or when I'm stroking my kid's head, I'm thinking, I remember my mom stroking me for the last time. And I just remember thinking, oh, this is peaceful, and all that pain and I was feeling and all this. I didn't want to live anymore, Terry, because I realized how much evil was in this world. And I was thinking, it's not even worth trying anymore, or what for? And my dad said, okay, it's time. And I'm thinking, time for what, Dad? What? Not again. I actually said to him, not again. And he looked at me and my mom said, for the last time. Yes, say yes to him. I was like, okay. I didn't know what. He just said, say goodbye to your mom. This is the last time we see you. So I said goodbye to my mom. I really thought that was going to be the last time I see her. Big hug. And then we walked with my dad to the main sort of motorway that led. The big trucks were going still through because import-export was still happening at a minimum kind of capacity, but it was still going on. And there was a truck there waiting in the night, just parked on the hill, little sort of steep hill. And my dad said, "You need to go." I'm like, "Dad, another man." I'm looking at him. He didn't speak any Serbian, any Albanian. He was a complete foreigner, Spanish driver. He said, "He will take you. He's there to take you." And I didn't know where I was going. He said, "When he reaches the destination, he will call the right person and the person will come and get you." And he just mentioned, he said, "It's to your mom's cousin." I was thinking, where do they live? What country? He said, "You'll see." And I said goodbye to my dad. I hugged him so tight because I knew that was going to be my last time with him. Well, that's what I felt. And I looked at him in this mirror as he drove off, and I was just so demoralized and empty. And I'm thinking, what is this driver going to do now? By that point, I had lost every faith in humanity. Trust was destroyed. And I think the driver was just like in shock to see me because I was a skeleton. And he kept looking at me, and I was thinking, why is he staring at me? But he couldn't help but stare at me the way I was. And then, I don't know, I mean, we stopped so many times, but I didn't know where we were. He just gave me food and different things along the way, water, an odd shower but wherever he stopped. And then he smuggled me into the UK. I don't know how. He put me I know how, I was in the truck, but I don't know how we managed to go through. And then one thing that I remember is, which was, it's the first time I really cried, was when we went through, I think, a tunnel or something, or were we in the water on the ferry, I think. I just remember something moving. And then when we got into Dover, from Calais, the truck got pulled over by the White Cliffs of Dover. And I went to see them recently because I just wanted to go and reminisce. And he pulled these curtains because I was hidden inside the truck where the driver is. The bed, one of the top beds rolls like a sausage, and he put me in there, and that's how he hid me, not in the back of the truck. And he pulled all the curtains down, brought me down, and he pulled the curtains up. And I remember this so well. He said, "Welcome to England." And I never forget the view of the White Cliffs of Dover and the ocean, endless. And I started crying because I didn't know. I was thinking, what the heck, England? What am I going to do here? I mean, I don't know. I think it was part of sense of relief, but the unknown, what's to come. I didn't know what's to come in the UK, or I didn't know anything about the UK. But I think it was one of the best choices my mum and dad made at the time. Risk their lives, risk their safety just to save me. And it's things that you do for kids. So I got then reunited with my mum's cousin. He lived here. I'm not sure where he is now, but he's a psychiatrist, and he took me under his wing. He made sure I was safe.
You probably had quite a lot to talk about with him as well, because
Initially, no, because I was so scared of any men.
right.
And he was a man, and I had been so scarred by male gender that I just didn't want anyone around me. I didn't trust anyone. But he was very nice, very gentle. My mum's first cousin, I called him uncle. And he then said, "We need to take you to the governments to tell your story." And I gave my interview to the British government, and I'm very grateful, actually. They gave me the indefinite leave to remain in the country within a few months of giving my interview at the Home Office. And I was put to see psychiatrists, different doctors, on all sorts of medication. I was on a suicidal watch. My uncle initially looked after me for a couple of weeks. Then they got me into this housing where they had 24-hour security to make sure I was safe. Nobody could come in and out and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I really am so grateful for all the people that pay their taxes that, eventually get invested in people like me. And I never wanted to be on income support or anything like that, but initially really helped me. And then as soon as I could speak English, I went to college and I knew I could work. I regained my strength. I knew I could work, even if it meant cleaning, doing odd jobs at the dry cleaners. Whilst I was studying, I wanted to come off the benefits because I wanted to now be the person that pays the taxes, that helps others. For me, it wasn't about using the system and abusing the system. It was more use it to the extent that you need to, because it's there to provide you to give you a cushion to get on your feet, but don't abuse it, because there's so much of it you can do before it's a vicious circle. If you get into that, you can't come out, and it's like you never grow. So yeah, that's the story in the UK. And then obviously I went to setting up my business. I've always been in coaching. Initially was in the fitness industry. And then I went into...
Well, we've got a mutual friend, haven't we?
I know, we do.
Yeah.
You're going to say the story? You tell us the story.
I think we should. So there's a guy that I met called Lazaro Almeres. He's also known as the Cuban Cardio. And he turned up at my gym and we started working together. And then when we spoke, I don't know whether there was a picture that we shared on Instagram.
He shared the training with you.
Yeah, and then you said to me, Terry, I can't believe this. I used to train with him. Was it in West London?
He was at West London.
Yeah, so I then said to him, I said, your friend Loretta is also my friend, and he was like, "Oh, she's great." He goes, "She's so fierce, like she can train. She's so fit." And he started talking about your Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Oh, did he?
And he was just like going, "That's one woman you don't want to ever fuck around with because she's dangerous." And I was like, and it just made me laugh because obviously I didn't know that about you, that you was heavily skilled in martial arts, and it's. I mean, do you think when you got settled in the UK, did you take up martial arts just because you wanted to be able to defend yourself, or was you just drawn into it because you wanted to do a martial art?
Well, as I was growing up, we watched lots of Jean-Claude Van Damme films, as I'm sure some people maybe still remember him. And I wanted to do karate, and I did it a little bit as a kid. And then, war, as I said, went on for like a decade in Serbia, Yugoslavia. So when I made it to the UK and I was so disturbed and and I was going to Hammersmith West College at that time, within the college, we had a gym for students and the outsiders. I can't remember what it was called, but literally near Barons Court Tube Station. And they were doing Taekwondo. It was a Croatian guy with his brother running Taekwondo classes. And he used to say, "Oh, come and do it," and this and that. And I'm like, Anyway, so I never took it seriously. A friend of mine was doing it with him. He was training Nicholas, this Greek friend of mine, and they were so good. And then eventually I decided to go into martial art, and I pursued it more when I was in Asia because it's a Korean martial art. And my kids were doing it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to continue to do it here because it seems so much more authentic. So I started in Taekwondo in the UK, and then I continued in Asia for 5 years. And my teachers were mostly Korean. I had some from Malaysia as well. But yeah, it was a really good environment and they really pushed me. But they were doing jiu-jitsu literally under the same umbrella. There was jiu-jitsu as well. And I could see these jiu-jitsu guys or Brazilian guys, and I'm thinking, you can't help it sometimes. We're always window shopping, aren't we, Terry? And I'm thinking, what is going on here? These hot guys wrestling. I mean, that's what got my attention.
Right, okay.
Sorry. But I was like, oh, interesting. What is this sport? And
so you said, I don't want to do it, I just want to watch.
Yeah, I continued to watch. And I was like, actually, this is interesting because people were getting so much out of it. So I said, guys, could I come for a trial session? Because they knew me anyway. I was under the same roof doing taekwondo daily. And it was an open space of different mats, but we could see each other. They said, oh, you're so flexible. You'll be good for my kicking. You'll be so good in jiu-jitsu. I said, okay. So I decided to do jiu-jitsu there. I got quite advanced. I had my 4 stripes, white belt. It was all good. And then I moved back to the UK, did jiu-jitsu somewhere else at Carson Gracie. For a bit, I was a white belt, pure white belt there for like a year. I didn't tell them I had 4 stripes somewhere else. I don't know why. I thought that's what you do when you're white belt, you start from scratch. And in Taekwondo, when you change federations, you also change, you go from the beginning, because in Taekwondo, you have 2 different federations. So I wasn't really knowledge in Jiu-Jitsu in terms of how it works with the grading. And COVID happened, and then Roger Gracie, which is a 10-time world champion.
He's amazing.
He's amazing. He moved his club from somewhere like Holland Park to Hammersmith, and it just became a little bit easier for me to get to because my other club, Carson Gracie, they shut down during COVID. And Roger Gracie was running classes differently. He was controlled when you were supposed to have only a certain amount of people, and they could afford to do so. So I thought, okay, I'm going to join because I don't want to miss out. And I started from scratch at Roger Gracie as well. And whilst I was training, they're like, have you been doing jiu-jitsu before? I'm like, well, sort of. They're like, come here, you're white belt. You can't be white belt, no stripes. So they put loads of stripes on me. They said, you're doing some crazy stuff and you're freaking all our new belts out. And then I got my blue belt through Roger. I'm just on the cusp now to getting my purple belt in jiu-jitsu. Nice. Under Roger Gracie. But it's good because I've been a white belt for so long. And honestly, it's taught me a lot of defense, didn't put me under pressure. It's good to stay on the belts for a while.
So as a woman in London, walking around, have you ever had to use any of your sort of martial arts to sort of defend yourself?
Unfortunately, I have, Terry. It happened in Shepherd's Bush. It happened in 30th of June. Not this year, last year. And the reason I remember the date is it was my son's birthday. I was at Soho House at Westfield, White City House, just did a workout, and I was walking back and I was about to run home. And I looked at the phone, I was trying to reach my mum, and I was getting panicky with my mum because my dad has been unwell. So I was just trying to see if my dad is okay. And I'm looking at my phone, which I never do. And this is something for people to, please don't be on your phones. One, it can get stolen. Secondly, you don't know what's coming. And I learned my lesson. So now I don't look at my phone so much outside. So I'm looking at my phone. And then when I raised my eyes, I could see these 2 guys, white guys, coming towards me. And I thought, okay, I better move this way. And I can see they move this way. And I move this way. They're moving this way. And I'm like, hang on a minute, what's happening? So I took my phone, I put it in this, like a belt that I run with. It's only like a material belt. Put it in, zipped it, and I thought maybe they're going to want my phone, which I wasn't going to give it to them anyway. I mean, you maybe
They messed with the wrong chick today.
I wasn't going to, trust me. I'm terrible, but you should give your phone if you can't defend yourself. And even if you can, just give the phone. But I wasn't going to, because I was going to lose a lot of messages from my mom. And my kids. And so I said, whoa, what's happening? And they sort of cordoned me just in front of Westfield, cordoned me, both of them on each side. And now I have this wall behind me, which you should never be cordoning. And I'm like, whoa. And my hands are up here. So what's going on? And I'm not letting my hands down at all. I'm keeping them here. I'm like, guys, what's going on? I said, do you want my phone? Like, no, we're just going to F you up, watch and see. But they're very foul language. At this point, there is not many people about. I could see one guy on the other side on the pavement. He's walking. And I said, okay, 1 second. I said, oh, you, come over here. I need a witness. And he's going like, what? These guys are looking at me like, what? But I don't know. I needed to do what I have to do because I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. If you get into a fight and you self-defended yourself and you end up in court, you have to be able, because when you give the pledge, when you get your black belt, you have to, you give the pledge, and then I did my pledge in Singapore. So you have to say that I promise to warn everyone that I'm a weapon. I am skilled as a weapon, so please don't touch me. So you have to warn them. Otherwise, it can be used against you. And so I have this with me all the time. It's like a little card I have. It's like a badge. So I didn't have the badge with me, but I said, guys, the witness is coming. He's crossing the road to see what's happening. I said, guys, I just want to say, I don't want to fight. If I have to fight, this can't be held against me. I am trained in Taekwondo and I'm a walking weapon. They're like, what the heck? They thought I was joking. And I'm like, right, I've said it. And in my head, I've said it, I've done my bit. And now by that point, I have moved myself. So my back wasn't facing the wall anymore because I was maneuvering myself while they were maneuvering with me. This guy reaches me, so I'm next to the witness. The witness is watching and listening everything. He's laughing. He thinks it's a joke. And so at that point, first guy with slightly longer hair throws a punch. And so I defend the punch. But instead of letting go and just defending, I literally hold on to the arm. And I said, I don't want to fight. And the other one charges towards me. I am confessing now. Please don't arrest me. Who's ever going to watch this?
You self-defense.
Yeah, and he's coming towards me. And then I have to literally do a front kick to create space with the other guy. So I create space with him. This one wants to punch me with the other hand, and I'm controlling him. And I just push him, and I started doing Taekwondo on them. And they both ended up, one on the floor, one over there, and they're like effing and blinding. And this guy is like, this is for real? I said, yeah. It's like, no, wait. He said, you guys get off the floor. I'm going to F you up now. I'm a boxer. And I'm thinking, you're watching me have a fight. You're a boxer. And dude, come away, come. I mean, I could have done with some help. But anyway, I didn't want him involved. It's good he didn't get involved because he said, shall we call the police? I said, in an ideal world, yes, I will call the police now. And I'm sure there is cameras here, CCTVs, but they are not hurt. They didn't land on their head. I didn't try to choke them or anything. I just quickly just kicked them around a bit around their waist. So nothing to hurt them, like cause damage, but enough to scare them. And then they started like swearing and effing and blinding, walked off. And I was actually shaken. I didn't realize that in real life. And I did a video actually on Instagram about this, and my kickboxing teacher was like, yeah, champ, you good? I'm like, I'm not good. I'm still shaken, but I protected myself. And then I did a video on Instagram because I thought if anyone is walking down Shepherd's Bush and they haven't got a clue that it can be unsafe, and I'm not saying Shepherd's Bush necessarily is unsafe, but London can be anywhere unsafe. So be aware. Be aware what's going on of your surroundings. Look around. Don't be paranoid, but just please be aware because you don't know. And in a way, it's lucky it happened to me, because if it had happened to a woman that can't defend herself, then, there's no way I was going to miss my son's birthday. So I was like, quick to fix that. But yeah, I was shaken. I really was shaken for a while. Even all the training in the world, it's different game when you're in real life trying to protect yourself. But in terms of jiu-jitsu, I haven't had to use jiu-jitsu. I think that's more if someone gets you to the ground and you from behind or something, that's really comes useful. And if I may say so myself, I have become very good at it. I'm quick, I respond well, and I just love jiu-jitsu. It's become part of my life. But going back to mental health, I think the reason I started doing martial arts is because I wanted to tame the demon in me that was still so raw and roaring and like angry. So it tames your ego, it tames your demons. It really is a good, resourceful thing to do because it gets you a bit more confident. Yeah. And if you leave the ego at the door, then you'll be a very good martial artist. If you keep the ego with you in the mats, you're going to be smashed and the ego is going to be broken in a bad way because it's bound to happen. So it's just about understanding martial art. A lot of people think we do it because we want to fight. Actually, yes, I can have a fight and I can win. I know I can win, but I do it because I don't want to fight. It tames my every little cell that it still goes like, sometimes it roars inside.
So
therapy.
So what's your plans for the future? Now, I mean, obviously you've overcome this these two horrific experiences. You've managed to come to England. Obviously, you've settled in England. You're now an accomplished martial artist, an author, a public figure. What's next?
Terry, for me now, besides my work that I have to pay my bills and stuff, with coaching on presentation skills and public speaking, my biggest mission is to make a difference to others. I want to give people hope and inspiration. I want to raise awareness for human trafficking. I want to do documentary, as many as I can, on human trafficking. Try and bring this up to the attention of the government and see what can be done, because sometimes they know it exists, it's not on their priority list. So about raising so much awareness and alarm bells that it becomes their priority before someone that they know get taken or gets affected by it. And then hopefully in the future get a film. And I think when all this is done, I think that would be such a nice little legacy to leave behind, that although I didn't get killed, I survived all of this. It didn't go to waste, all the experience I took from this and everything that it taught me. Hopefully I managed to raise awareness, give people hope, and just be a better version. Everything that they tried to do was to break me. And literally I used it to my advantage to actually make myself a better person. So, yeah.
I bet you've got that Beyonce track as well, haven't you?
Which one?
I'm a survivor. Actually, because, and you know something, it is absolutely. I mean, for me, to actually say, you're a friend and I know you after what you've been through. I think it's you don't have people. I can honestly say, I don't have any other friends like you.
No,
you're one off, and that's why I think your story's so good. And I think the book. I mean, I can't wait to read the book. I'm going to read that tonight. So make sure you get Lurata's book. And if any of our listeners or viewers want to get in touch with you, what's your preferred means? Do you like just to contact you on Instagram or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a website?
I'm very active on my Instagram, so please do use Instagram because I've responded to every single listener, and there's I'm talking in the thousands, because it's all the people that have heard back from me.
You're a popular gal.
I'm telling you, I will respond to you, because people are so shocked when I respond. They're like, I didn't expect it. I'm like, well, you are taking your time to write to me, to connect with me, to follow me, to support my content. Who do I think I am not to, either follow you back or even respond?
Right.
What does it take, Terry? Respect goes both ways. So I will respond. But just make sure you got me right, the correct name on Instagram as it's written on the book, Lurata Lyon. Facebook, I use it not so much, but Instagram, I'm extremely active. Extremely active.
Well, Lurata, thank you so much for coming on and sharing our story. I hope, have you run out of tissues or have you...
Yeah, I've got some.
You got one left. You got one left.
Why you want to tell me something?
No, I actually want to. I want to have a cry now. You've got me all upset as well.
But this is clean.
But no, honestly, it was a shocking story, but inspiring at the same time. That anybody, I mean, you just can't believe that any human being could go through that. And then you're sitting there now, we're having a laugh. Obviously, we're reminiscing, and we're not laughing, we're crying, but to be able to share those stories, there's something powerful about that. And I think all the people that watch this will probably want to buy the book, and they probably will follow you on Instagram. And if they see you on the street and they think they're going to take your phone, they might just cross the road.
I'm not aggressive at all, honestly. Don't attack me.
There's Taekwondo woman. She's going to fuck us up. Let's find somebody else.
Yeah. Please don't provoke me. I am not very good with
But thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Terry.
Thanks for tuning in to the Criminal Connection podcast. Lurata Lyon, what an inspirational story. What an amazing woman to go through that, come out the other end and share that story on the Criminal Connection podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tune in next week because we've got another amazing guest. Don't forget to like, subscribe and follow our YouTube channel and tell your friends about the Criminal Connection podcast.